Now, I've been watching the politics in UK recently, and I found it interesting that the leader of Labour Party came out and he said that one of the main grievances of the British public seems to be mass immigration, especially the illegal one. And he probably came out to say this because he noticed that his party is losing popularity. Most people voted Labour because they were upset with the Conservatives, so they wanted to punish the Tories, and they voted Labour instead. And what Labour did is instill certain policies that were very unpopular, especially with the farmers. And so they lost a lot of political goodwill from the people. And I guess Keir Starmer was trying to come out and basically say, "Oh well, this issue that you guys have been crying about since Brexit, and you guys have also voted the Conservatives to fix this issue, and it still hasn't gotten fixed. Well, we're going to address it." And he basically said that no, like this is not an issue that happened because the government was incompetent and we couldn't stop migration. Like no, this was desirable. Like this was a plan by the Conservatives and blah blah blah. So he's basically like trying to blame the Conservatives for the migration issue. But the reason that sorry, the fact that he actually said that it was allowed is very interesting. Because I too believe that it was allowed, simply because of seeing the effectiveness that the British government has when it comes to crack down on the far right. I mean, they immediately are able to use facial recognition. London is one of the most surveilled cities in the world. It's got CCTV cameras everywhere. They have task force that go online on social media in order to find what people are talking about. They have the ability to make requests from social media to give the IPs and all of the private correspondence that any British citizen has. So with that out of the way, the idea that like all these NGOs that are supplying with boats and all these people that are coming in from halfway across the world, like they must pay someone in order to transport them. They must use various vehicles and stuff. So like the government just can't find out who the NGOs are, and they can't cut funding. But for some reason, when it comes to Nigel Farage, he gets debanked. And I get it, a bank is a private institution, but like, how often is it that these private institutions collaborate with the government? So like, the government can require social media to ban someone, but they can't, ask a bank to debank someone. Especially when Nigel Farage was actually debanked for his support on Brexit. So that's the situation we're in. But interestingly enough, Nigel Farage said something which apparently upset a lot of people. And let's hear him out.
That's all anybody will talk about. If I say I support mass deportations, that's all anybody will talk about for the next 20 years. So it's pointless even going there.
So it's a rhetorical problem.
It's a political impossibility to deport hundreds of thousands of people. We simply can't do it.
So everyone is upset, and they're calling him a coward because he says that it's a political impossibility to deport millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people. And I don't think it's fair to call him a coward because he is Nigel Farage. Like, he has proven himself in the past to risk pushing for change to the point where he got debanked, to the point where he alienated a lot of his friends, and he got kicked out from a lot of social circles. I don't think he's a coward. I genuinely think that he doesn't know how to do it. And what I mean by this is that a lot of people believe that if you gain power, you're kind of like a dictator in a video game, and you just sign a bill and it happens. But I want you to understand what it actually means. Like put yourself in the position where you actually become Prime Minister of Britain. So you now have a lot of people that want to see you debanked. You have a lot of people that want to see you in prison. And you just have to give them a reason to do it. Now you may say, well, that's fine. If I get to make change in the country, then it's worth the risk. But the question is, can you actually bring the change? Because, signing a piece of paper where, let's say, you encourage deportations is not that difficult, right? But the question is, do you have support from your political party? Like, there may be actual political members in your party that will be bought or would not want to associate themselves with such a bill. Is the opposition strong enough to resist you? Because again, you can sign the bill, but like there's also an opposition, right? So they may try to prevent it from happening. Is the bill going to be enforced? That's another thing. Like, who is doing the enforcement? Who's doing the actual deportations? What is the public opinion on this? And the reality is, from my personal experience, when it comes to the Anglospheres, when it comes to the United States and Britain, if they start showing on the television people being put into trains and kids crying and mothers crying, because that's the images they're going to show, right? Especially if someone gets harmed, like let's say a couple of individuals attack the authorities and the authorities fire rubber bullets. They're going to show the firing of the rubber bullets, right? So like the public opinion is going to shift dramatically. And what's going to happen after that is that the people who do the enforcement, the bureaucrats that, maybe they're the pencil pushers, but they're required in all of this operation, or even the people on the ground that are actually apprehending and doing the deportations, well, they're going to notice a lot of pressure. Maybe a brick flies into their house. Maybe people isolate them from their social circles. Maybe they genuinely don't feel like doing it. And so you now have like a problem with the enforcers. Because they may not have signed up for this. Like maybe they signed up for an easy job as a pencil pusher. Like they just want to go to work and go home. And all of a sudden, everyone is spitting on them on the street, and they're calling them names, and they're pressuring them to resign. And maybe they do resign, and now who's going to take their place, right? So this is what Nigel Farage is talking about. He's not saying that he wouldn't do it. I genuinely think that he doesn't know how. Now, obviously, like if you win with a major vote, like let's say you win like 70% of the vote, okay, then you can do it. But the reality is that most of the time, especially in Britain, like if Nigel were to win, I don't think he would have like a massive enough vote in order to sway people. And take into account that even with the massive vote, you still have the international community that's breathing down your neck. You still have the same entities that messed with Liz Truss and got her kicked off the party, right? Like again, your party members are important. So the question is, like, if you actually reach to this part of the video, because I know many people will just tune out by now and leave a comment. It's like, oh, V, you're doom pilling. And it's like, no, there are ways to solve the issue. Like, okay, so the British public thinks that there was too much immigration, right? How do you fix this? Deportations? Well, as I mentioned before, extremely difficult to impossible. You can cut the welfare, however. You can prevent new immigrants from arriving, right, illegally. Like, you can still have, like, legal migration, or you can even close that. Like, if you're the prime minister, at that point, you have the authority to decide how much migration you want. I mean, Canada recently was talking about closing its borders for immigrants, not for tourists. But you can do that, right? You can start punishing the NGOs. You can start cracking down on crime more severely. You can use the same apparatus that's used on the far right. You can use it on agitators on the other side. Like there are multiple ways that you can do it. Unfortunately, yeah, it takes time. Take into account that the crisis that Nigel Farage is talking about took decades to reach to this point. The idea that you can end it in one prime ministership is ridiculous. Now, again, he doesn't know how to do it. If you know better, then of course, you can run for elections and you can win and you can enact whatever policy you want. But again, talking as a person who understands how politics work, simply signing a piece of paper and then expecting that it's going to be carried out isn't going to work. I mean, look at what happened in South Korea recently, right? Like the president signed a piece of paper and he declared martial law. And like, so fucking what? Right? Like the military did comply, but his own party members didn't. So you need to always take into account that it's not just the prime minister. Like, the problem with Britain is the culture. Like, first you would need a cultural shift. You need a cultural change. And maybe then you can start talking about finding solutions. Unfortunately, all the money is being poured right now into justifying the crisis and to justifying what is happening. Apparently, Labour says that, well, what happened up until now is bad and we're going to put a stop to it. I don't know. I think they may have said this because they noticed they're down in the polls. Take into account the Tories also said it's like, oh yeah, we're going to fix it. We're going to blah, blah, blah. And in reality, they didn't, because I think Labour itself pointed out it's cheap labor. Right? Well, if it's cheap labor in its economics, I mean, how can we put a stop to that? So, no, I don't think that Nigel Farage is a coward. I don't think that what he is saying is him giving up. I think he's just looking for other solutions. And when the elections come, he's probably going to list those solutions. And we're going to see what they are. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.